But first, let's get straight to the top focus this evening. The advance estimate for GDP for the fiscal year 2017 has been released. The Central Statistics Organization, or the CSO, expects the economy to grow at 7.1% in this financial year. That's lower compared to the 7.6% growth rate recorded in FY16. The rate of growth has clearly slowed down across sectors, barring agriculture, public administration expenses and defence. Now, while agriculture has seen an upward move due to better monsoons, the rise in public administration expenditure can be attributed to the expenses due to the 7th Pay Commission, and defence sector has gotten a shot in the arm from the OROP payments. Now, there is a big catch with the advance estimate of GDP. The impact of demonetisation has yet not been accounted for in this data. The Central Statistics Organization today released the full year projection taking into account data from April to October. Hear out what the Chief Statistician of India, TCA Anant, and Economic Affairs Secretary Shaktikanta had to say on the calculations and the concerns that lie ahead.
I will be very careful in not speculating about what will be in the revised estimate. When I present an estimate and how I've examined the data and what approach I've taken, I will explain at that stage. At this stage, since it isn't public knowledge that the November figures are available, the fact that we have not used them required me to comment, and I've done that. What exactly will be the approach and to what extent how will they be used in later revisions, I will leave for later releases.
Area of concern is, of course, the gross fixed capital formation, which is an area of concern, and that the government will address that area, and whatever measures and whatever initiatives or interventions are required, the government will take necessary measures in that direction. Today, whatever statistics we have, whatever figures are coming out about the impact of demonetization are, broadly mostly anecdotal and mostly based on impressions.
Well, more on that story, we are now joined by Latha Venkatesh, who will help us understand what these numbers really mean. Latha, of course, the big takeaway from this is that the CSO estimates come, but it has not taken into account the demonetization impact. So how worse can it be, once it takes into account, November onwards?
Well, first and foremost, even without taking into account November-December numbers, the GDP numbers are not flattening, 7.1% compared to 7.6 last year, so a full half a percentage point lower. Agriculture and public administration are the only saving grace. Public administration, again, higher because of the 7th Pay Commission and OROP expenses. Look at manufacturing, mining, construction, trade, transport, communication, financial services. Every one of these entry is lower by 2 percentage points each, and they together form 75% of the GDP. Agriculture and public administration form just about 20-25% of the GDP. If you looked at expenditure looked at GDP from the expenditure side, then again government consumption is the only one which is standing up tall, 24% higher. Again, what is it? Expenses on teachers, school, at bureaucracy, basically salary expenses because of 7th Pay Commission. Private consumption is lower, but it's not very bad. 6.5% compared to 7.4% last year. Lower even before demonetization, that is private consumption. Capital formation, minus 0.2, again not counting demonetization compared to a growth last year. Exports is again a saving grace, it's actually done better. Obviously, commodity exporting countries, Middle East and all, have got more money this time because of crude, and therefore our exports have actually done better compared to last year. So it's a slightly negative picture even without demonetization. Now with November, December accounting for probably a structural change in the India growth story, you must expect all these. Manufacturing, we already know we have two-wheeler and cement numbers. Construction, because if cement were weak, construction would have been weak. Financial services, we know that credit growth has been zilch. Only deposit growth has been phenomenal because of demonetization. Trade, again, would suffer because of a credit crunch, and that's a big element. It's about 15% of the GDP. All these are bound to suffer. Therefore, that 7.1 projected by the CSO pre-demonetization is bound to look lower. what do we have by way of estimates? Most of the estimates are around that 6.5% mark. So India is going to give up that 7% at least for 1 year. 6.5 is what everybody is coalescing on, some 6.6, some 6.7. But there are two extreme numbers. Dr. Pranab Sen, former statistician and an extremely respected economist, believes that FY17 growth could be as low as 6%. And equally respected brokerage, Credit Suisse, believes there is no serious breakdown in consumption, and therefore they are expecting 6.9. Probably the truth will lie in the middle, but let's hear Dr. Sen out.
In terms of the sort of straightforward quantitative theory approach, I would be estimating it at significantly lower, with the GVA at somewhere around 6. And the GDP growth at about 6.2 or thereabouts. In fact, my sense is that Q4 is going to be a little worse than Q3. I'm looking at Q3 at being somewhere in the 6.5 region, and Q4 being closer to 5.